What if everything we thought we knew about Atlantis was completely wrong? Not just off by a few details but fundamentally misunderstood for over 2,000 years. In a stunning development that's sending ripples through the scientific community, researchers have just completed the most comprehensive AI simulation of Atlantis ever attempted. And what they found changes everything we thought we knew about this legendary civilization. For the first time, a specialized AI system has ingested and analyzed massive datasets, seismic scans of the ocean floor, paleoclimate records spanning thousands of years, and archaeological findings from 3 continents, all to answer one question: what really happened to Atlantis? The bombshell result? Atlantis wasn't a single island city that sank beneath the waves in one catastrophic day. Instead, the AI simulation suggests it was something far more complex. A cascade of real geological disasters and climate events woven together into a single powerful myth that has endured for millennia. There's 1, there's 2, and here's the recap structure. They fall in a perfect alignment. Now what's the explanation there? I don't know. The AI simulation pieced together evidence of massive tectonic collapse along the mid-Atlantic ridge, a series of volcanic eruptions triggering devastating tsunamis, and the subsequent mass migration of survivors who carried their stories to distant shores. What makes this so revolutionary is that the timeline generated by the AI aligns perfectly with Plato's account, around 9,600 BCE, which coincides with the end of the Younger Dryas period, a time of dramatic climate change that saw sea levels rise dramatically as the last ice age ended. But this is just the beginning. What the AI discovered next about Atlantis's possible location is even more mind-blowing. But before we reveal that, if you're fascinated by how cutting-edge technology is rewriting ancient history, it's crazy when you think about it. We can land rovers on Mars and detect black holes billions of light years away, but right here on Earth, many insurance companies still try to lowball people after an accident like it's the Stone Age. If you ever get seriously hurt, your case could actually be worth millions, which is why you might want a stellar legal team fighting to get you the compensation you deserve. That's why so many people check out Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. They don't settle for weak offers. Just recently, they secured $12 million in Florida and $26 million in Philadelphia for injury victims, 30 to 40 times more than what insurance companies first offered. And here's the real-world physics of it. If they don't win, you don't pay. No upfront fees, no hidden charges. It's completely free unless they win your case. They've even modernized the whole process. You can submit your claim and chat with your legal team right from your smartphone. If you ever got seriously injured, your case could be worth millions, and you're only a few clicks away from potentially changing your life. It's so easy. You can start your claim now with Morgan & Morgan at www.4thepeople.com/specialize, found in the description below or by scanning the QR code on screen. Now let's get back to the video. Music. Hit subscribe now and turn on notifications. We bring you groundbreaking discoveries like this every week, often before they hit mainstream news. The most shocking part? The simulation has identified physical evidence that matches Plato's descriptions with uncanny accuracy, evidence hidden in plain sight for thousands of years. The AI rebuilds Atlantis topography in what might be the most visually stunning breakthrough yet. The AI has accomplished something archaeologists have attempted for centuries. It's rebuilt Atlantis using state-of-the-art bathymetric data and seafloor mapping technology. The AI has reconstructed a possible location for Atlantis's legendary ringed city. The surprising focus? The Great Meteor Seamount, a massive underwater mountain in the Atlantic Ocean that's been hiding in plain sight. What makes this reconstruction revolutionary is how perfectly it aligns with Plato's descriptions from over 2,300 years ago. The AI identified concentric ring formations that match the exact geometric proportions described in Plato's dialogues. Right, there is, from Plato, that's the ringed city of Atlantis to scale. The concentric rings, the concentric ring, so this is the actual scale superimposed onto the recap structure. So it's much smaller scale. But the AI didn't stop at basic topography. It went further, simulating an entire infrastructure system. Elaborate canals and aqueducts based on Plato's geometric descriptions, including the famous 3 circular water channels surrounding the central island. What's truly fascinating is how the AI layered this reconstruction with elements from known ancient civilizations. It incorporated sophisticated water management systems similar to those found in Doggerland, the real-life submerged land mass in the North Sea that was inhabited until rising seas flooded it around 6000 BCE. The AI also detected similarities to Minoan city designs, suggesting possible cultural connections across vast distances. The simulation shows a civilization that had mastered hydraulic engineering on a scale previously thought impossible for that time period, with terraced agricultural zones, irrigation channels, and harbor structures that would have allowed large-scale maritime commerce. This isn't just speculative modeling. The AI is working with actual undersea terrain data, identifying anomalous features that don't appear natural. Some of these structures remain partially visible beneath layers of silt and volcanic debris, preserved by the very catastrophe that may have destroyed them. The implications are staggering. If these reconstructions prove accurate, we're looking at evidence of advanced engineering knowledge during a period when mainstream archaeology suggests humans were just transitioning from hunter-gatherer societies. Genetic echoes of a lost seafaring people. The AI's investigation has uncovered perhaps the most tantalizing evidence yet. Biological traces of Atlantis' people may still exist in our DNA. By cross-referencing genetic databases of ancient DNA samples from across the Mediterranean and Atlantic coastlines, the AI has identified something remarkable: genetic signatures of an unknown seafaring population that appears in multiple seemingly unconnected ancient peoples. North African Berbers, pre-Celtic Britons, and early Egyptian populations. What makes this discovery so compelling is that it aligns with actual scientific findings. Real genomic studies have already identified what geneticists call basal Eurasian ancestry, a mysterious genetic signature that doesn't match known ancient Near Eastern or African groups. The AI suggests this could represent the diaspora of a maritime civilization displaced by catastrophic flooding. This isn't just speculation. The genetic markers show up precisely in coastal regions that would have been logical landing points for refugees fleeing rising waters in the Atlantic. The timing of these genetic introductions aligns perfectly with the end of the Younger Dryas period, when sea levels rose dramatically. The hypothesis is stunning. Survivors of the Atlantis collapse may have integrated into multiple emerging civilizations, bringing advanced knowledge with them and potentially accelerating human development across 3 continents. Language reconstruction. The Atlantoid script. In another breakthrough, the AI has done what linguists thought impossible: reconstructed fragments of what might be an Atlantean language. By analyzing undeciphered ancient scripts, Linear A from Minoan Crete, Tartessian inscriptions from ancient Iberia, symbols found on artifacts from submerged Doggerland, and the mysterious Vinca script from Southeast Europe, the AI identified unexpected overlaps in syntax and symbolism. The result is what researchers are calling Atlantoid script, a hypothetical proto-language that could have influenced multiple Mediterranean and Atlantic writing systems. The AI detected shared mathematical proportions in symbol arrangement and recurring motifs, like tridents, concentric circles, and wave patterns, across these geographically distant writing systems. Most intriguingly, many of these symbols relate to maritime themes and astronomical observations, precisely what we'd expect from an advanced seafaring civilization. Plato's date recalculated. For centuries, scholars dismissed Plato's dating of Atlantis to 9600 BCE as impossibly ancient. Now, the AI suggests Plato might have been remarkably accurate. By recalibrating ancient calendar systems and accounting for translation errors, the AI has aligned Plato's date with a real catastrophic event: Meltwater Pulse 1b, a period of dramatically accelerated sea level rise between 9500 and 9200 BCE. This timing perfectly coincides with the end of the Younger Dryas period, when Earth warmed rapidly, and growing evidence of a potential comet impact that may have accelerated climate change. The correlation is striking. Geological evidence shows sea levels rising by tens of meters within just a few centuries during this period, potentially fast enough to be remembered in oral history as happening in a single day and night, as catastrophic final flooding breached coastal defenses. What makes this recalculation so compelling is how it aligns with actual scientific evidence. Sediment cores from the Atlantic show increased volcanic activity during this period, and there are geological indications of massive underwater landslides that could have generated tsunamis, exactly the kind of cascading disasters that might destroy a coastal civilization. The AI hasn't just found Atlantis, it's rewritten the timeline of human civilization, suggesting advanced societies may have existed thousands of years earlier than previously thought. What makes this evidence particularly compelling is that radiocarbon dating of organic material in these samples places them within the time frame of the proposed Atlantis catastrophe, approximately 12,000 years ago, coinciding with the end of the last ice age. The AI's analysis of these historical core samples has revealed something the original researchers couldn't have known. The pattern of sedimentation and the condition of the fossils indicate not just submergence, but violent submergence. The layering suggests massive tsunami events and sudden tectonic subsidence rather than the gradual sinking that would be expected from normal geological processes. Even more intriguing, some of these core samples contain traces of minerals that shouldn't naturally occur at those depths, including unusual alloys similar to what Plato described as orichalcum, a metal prized in Atlantis. This evidence from the ship Atlantis presents a compelling case that parts of the mid-Atlantic ridge were not only above water within human memory, but experienced a catastrophic collapse that could have destroyed an entire civilization in a single day and night of misfortune, just as Plato described. The scientific community has struggled to explain these anomalous findings for decades. Now, with the AI's comprehensive analysis bringing together multiple lines of evidence, these core samples may finally make sense as physical proof of Atlantis's destruction. Out-of-place artifacts, ooparts, reframed, the AI has made a connection that archaeologists have missed for decades, linking mysterious symbols found at sites across 3 continents. By cross-analyzing databases of so-called out-of-place artifacts with sediment stratigraphy and erosion patterns, the AI has identified recurring symbols that appear at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, dated to 9600 BCE, in the enigmatic Teos cave system in Ecuador, and among West African megalithic structures. What makes this discovery so significant is that these symbols, circular carvings, concentric rings, and distinctive trident motifs, match exactly what Plato described as emblems of the Poseidon cult in Atlantis. The AI's pattern recognition capabilities detected these shared symbolic elements across sites separated by thousands of miles of ocean. The implications are profound. These symbols appear in structures that predate the rise of known ancient civilizations like Egypt and Mesopotamia. If they truly represent cultural diffusion from a common source, that source must have had global maritime capabilities far earlier than conventional archaeology acknowledges. Most intriguingly, the AI's analysis of the chronology suggests these symbols appeared simultaneously at multiple distant locations around 9500 to 9000 BC, precisely when survivors of an Atlantis-like catastrophe might have established new settlements around the world. The trident symbol, traditionally associated with Poseidon in Greek mythology, appears with surprising consistency at these ancient sites, often combined with wave patterns and astronomical alignments. The AI suggests this represents not just cultural diffusion, but the diaspora of a cohesive belief system that survived the collapse of its original civilization. Advanced metallurgy in Bronze Age shipwrecks. One of Plato's most specific claims about Atlantis was that it was rich in an unusual metal called orichalcum, described as red gold in color and highly valued. For centuries, scholars dismissed this as fantasy. Now, the AI has uncovered evidence that such a metal actually existed. By analyzing published metallurgical reports from Bronze Age shipwrecks, particularly one discovered near Sicily, the AI has identified traces of an unusual alloy that matches Plato's description, a sophisticated blend of copper, zinc, and rare earth elements that would have had a distinctive reddish-golden appearance. What makes this finding remarkable is that creating such an alloy would have required advanced metallurgical knowledge. Zinc is notoriously difficult to extract in alloy, as it vaporizes at copper's melting temperature. Producing this material would have demanded sophisticated techniques that weren't thought to exist until much later in history. The composition of this orichalcum-like alloy found in the shipwreck cargo doesn't match any known Bronze Age metallurgical tradition. Instead, it appears to represent a lost technology, one that originated from a sophisticated civilization with advanced knowledge of metalworking. The AI's analysis suggests this wasn't just decorative material. The specific properties of the alloy, including corrosion resistance and tensile strength, would have made it ideal for maritime applications, precisely what would be expected from an advanced seafaring civilization like Atlantis. The distribution pattern of similar alloys in archaeological finds traces what appears to be a trade network centered on the Atlantic, further supporting the existence of a maritime civilization based in that region. This evidence provides tangible, testable proof for one of Plato's most specific claims about Atlantis, that it possessed unusual metals and advanced metallurgical knowledge beyond what was common in the ancient world. Plato's dialogue and moral allegory. To understand why the AI's discoveries are so revolutionary, we need to go back to the original source of the Atlantis legend, Plato's dialogues Timaeus and Critias, written around 360 BCE. For thousands of years, these texts have been our only window into the mystery of Atlantis. In them, Plato describes a mighty island empire, larger than Libya and Asia combined, that existed beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the Strait of Gibraltar. According to the story, Atlantis was a technologically advanced civilization that became morally corrupt and was punished by the gods, who sank it beneath the waves in a single day and night of misfortune. What has always perplexed historians is Plato's specific dating of these events to around 9600 BCE, nearly 9,000 years before his own time. This extreme antiquity led most scholars to dismiss the story as pure invention or moral allegory, a cautionary tale about the dangers of hubris and excess. The conventional view has been that Plato created Atlantis as a fictional counterpart to his ideal state, a warning about what happens when a society embraces materialism and military expansion over wisdom and virtue. But what if Plato was conveying actual historical information, preserved through Egyptian records as he claimed? What if the seemingly impossible date of 9600 BCE wasn't fiction, but reflected a genuine catastrophe from the end of the last ice age? Over the centuries, countless theories have attempted to identify the real location of Atlantis or to explain what might have inspired Plato's account. Scholars began breaking down Plato's account line by line. What did he actually say? Let's look at the geology, the geography, the oceanography, the astronomy, and see if it lines up. In the 19th century, writer Ignatius Donnelly popularized the idea of Atlantis as a mid-Atlantic continent that sank beneath the waves, giving rise to similar myths worldwide. While compelling, modern geology has found no evidence of a recently sunken continent in the Atlantic Ocean. The Minoan civilization on Crete and Santorini, Thera, has often been suggested as the real Atlantis. Around 1600 BCE, a massive volcanic eruption destroyed much of Santorini and triggered devastating tsunamis. This real catastrophe bears striking similarities to Plato's account, except it occurred about 8,000 years later than the date Plato gave. Doggerland, a now submerged landmass that once connected Britain to continental Europe, presents another compelling candidate. As sea levels rose after the last ice age, this fertile region was gradually submerged, forcing its inhabitants to flee to higher ground. National Geographic has described Doggerland as the real Atlantis, though its northern location doesn't match Plato's description. The Black Sea deluge theory suggests a catastrophic flood around 5600 BCE when Mediterranean waters breached the Bosphorus, rapidly flooding a freshwater lake to create today's Black Sea. This event may have inspired flood myths across multiple cultures. More speculative theories include Charles Hapgood's suggestion that Antarctica was once Atlantis, situated in warmer latitudes before a crustal displacement moved it to its current position. While fascinating, this theory is incompatible with our understanding of plate tectonics. Zealandia, a mostly submerged continent near New Zealand, proves that large landmasses can indeed sink beneath the waves, though its submergence occurred millions of years ago, long before human civilization. What makes the AI's findings so groundbreaking is that they don't try to force Atlantis into a single location or event. Instead, they suggest Plato's account might represent a composite memory of multiple real catastrophes, preserved through oral tradition and eventually recorded by the Egyptians before reaching Plato. This approach resolves many of the contradictions that have plagued Atlantis research for centuries, explaining how elements of the story could be simultaneously true, yet scattered across different times and places.